Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever you're joining us today. In today's live lecture coming to you from Nkolo Mahadum Wisdom University. Today's date is Nkwo Market Day in the Igbo lunar calendar and 12/18/2025 in the Roman Catholic calendar. Remember, at Nkolo Mahadum, we always advise you to use your naturally given common sense, which we call Akonuche in Igbo language. And at Nkolo Mahadum, which is an university, we are not content creators. This is an university where we package and deliver lectures from the Igbo man, from Biafran and African perspectives. And we encourage you to always join us, subscribe, follow us on Facebook and YouTube, like, comment, and share, because we are Igbo-centric, Biafran-centric, and African-centric university. And the title of today's lecture is Some Speeches from Eze Igbo Gburugburu, Chief Odumegwu Ojukwu, and the Biafran Restoration Project. Some speeches as delivered by Chief Eze Gburugburu I of Igbo land, Chief Odumegwu Chukwuemeka Ojukwu, and how it concerns the current Biafran Restoration Project. And you know that before we start showing you some of the speeches he made, we also want to just remind you that Odumegwu Ojukwu was born on November 4th, 1933 in Zungeru in northern Nigeria, according to Britannica. Also, you know that his father was the richest man in Nigeria at the time. So his father was very wealthy. Ojukwu himself is very, very wealthy and talented. And, you know, Ojukwu was in the military, and before everything that happened in Nigeria started to happen. And he was one of the educated military guys in Nigeria. And before the whole coup, the 15 January 1966 coup that was sponsored by the foreign multinationals, oil companies, because oil was discovered in Nigeria in 1956. And since that oil was discovered in Nigeria in 1956, the multinational corporations want to be the ones running Nigeria. And so they are the one that planned and instigated that coup, that 15 January 1966 coup, which the BBC megaphone called Igbo coup. And that coup subsequently led to the Igbo program of May 1966, and then the counter coup of July 1966. So a lot of things happened, and a lot of the Igbos were being killed. When you hear that the Igbos were being killed, it's not only the Igbos, everybody from the eastern region, even some Yorubas were also killed. And so all those things were going on, and they went for Aburi at the Aburi conference. And that is where we will start to show you some clips. What happened at the Aburi conference, the Aburi Accord, where Ojukwu and Gowon reached an agreement. And that conference took place between January 4th and 5th, 1967 in Aburi, Ghana. So let's start from there to show you the videos of what happened.
But at the end of it, I don't want to go because these things are all, the tapes are available, the records are there. In fact, only about 2 weeks ago, I saw a set of the records again. The transcripts are available. But we talked about the Nigerian situation. And certainly, at the end, everybody says, oh, you told them this, you did that. The fact was that our case was so clear that I actually believed at the end of Aburi that the problem was not Gawan, but probably some ambassadors in Lagos who were pressing for something else. Because we understood each other. We agreed on every single point. The drafting was, in fact, my chief secretary with 2 other chief secretaries from the other side. They said, no, no, no. And drafted and agreed. We looked at it, we agreed. General Ankara read over the whole report again to us at the end. Asked us if we wanted to amend anything. No. At the end of all that,
you can see that they agreed on all the discussions they had in Aburi, Ghana. Both Chief Odumegwu, Ojukwu, and General Gowon, both of them agreed on all the discussions that they had. They agreed. It was clear, according to him. Let's continue to listen.
the position was so good that actually Ankara drove Jack Gawan and myself to the airport. Jack was sitting on his left, I was sitting on his right. He was in the middle. And in the course of that journey, at a point, General Ankara shook his head and said, oh, thank you. Thank you. If only we can go on like this, everything would be all right. I believe I was the one. As I do now from time to time, I go for the dramatic. Suddenly I picked up Gawan's hand, put it on Ankara's lap, brought my other hand, placed it on it, and I said, General, sir, hold us together, I want to say something. So General Ankara put his hand on top of the 2 hands, and I said, General, I want to assure you that I am totally satisfied with everything we said. I will even go further and say to you something I did not say at the conference, and that is that once we have implemented everything we have said, I would ask you for one favor and one favor only, and that would be to be the one to propose Jack Gawan as a head of state of Nigeria. You know that
this is how the Igbo people, the Biafran people reasons. We don't want to be at the top. Even the 15 January 1966 coup, those who planned that coup wanted to make Awolowo, a Yoruba man, the president of Nigeria. And you can, as you can hear from from Ojukwu. He was very, very happy and said that if everything in this agreement is implemented, he will be the one recommending Gowon to be the president of the whole Nigeria, not him. The Igbos are not interested in being president at that time. They only want a good Nigeria, a good environment. And for those asking for restructuring or regionalism, that is what they agreed at Aburi. And the federal government, Nigerian government, refused to implement that. So they don't want you to restructure the country to be working. They don't want you to have regionalism that will make the country to work, because when you have that, those foreigners, those foreign colonial masters and their multinational corporations will no longer benefit. The resources of Nigeria will now fall into the hands of the indigenous people that own the resources. And that's what they don't want. And so if you are asking for restructuring, go back to the Aburi conference, the Aburi Accord. That was what was negotiated, that failed, that eventually led to the war. So let's continue to listen to what happened afterwards.
Two-day conference of peers and old mates, but its aftermath produced even further controversy.
When we came back, and Ojukwu did not go to make the statement he made first, virtually giving the impression that we've agreed for a confederation to move apart, etc., which was really not in exactly that. If I had had the opportunity to make my broadcast unified, because that was the agreement.
Ojukwu did not say that the country, everybody will go apart, because you heard him say, if everything is implemented as they agreed, that he will be the one to recommend that Gowon be the president of Nigeria. So I don't think Gowon is saying the truth here when he said that everybody is going apart. That's not the thing. They agreed on everything. Let's continue to watch so you can see everything that they agreed on. And Ojukwu was saying, if everything is implemented, that Gowon will be the president of the whole Nigeria. Let's continue to watch.
Not for him to make the broadcast first. Then, if I had committed myself to what he said, then there wouldn't have been any problem. But he went and said certain things that certainly looked wrong, and therefore we saw in practically everything he did. I think it was for to play up to the gallery, not being sincere.
At Aburi, yes, we agreed on area commands for the armed forces. At Aburi, we agreed that the police force will be decentralized. We agreed on those. Yes. We agreed, even to show that we didn't separate, at Aburi we also agreed on a certain revenue formula. That's what happened at Aburi. Aburi again, because I always end up, it sounds odd today, but I always end up by saying I must have been naive, because I believed actually that would be the end. I'll confess to you, when I got back to Enugu, oh yes, I had it. I had it.
In Aburi, they agreed on how to reorganize the armed forces. They also agreed on on the state police. The state police that they're talking of right now. How many years ago? They're still talking about state police. But that was part of what they agreed at Aburi. And they also agreed on some revenue sharing formula. So for Gowon to be saying that Ojukwu wanted to stay apart, that's not true. So these are the things that they agreed, some of the things they agreed at Aburi, including others. But the federal government did not implement those agreements, and that led to the Civil War. Let's continue to listen to them.
A party believing that probably the danger was over. That's what we thought. Until they then began to deny everything. It was the denial of Nigeria that made me publish the tapes of Aburi, because we had insisted that each one should have a set of tapes. Everybody talks about confederation. Go and look at the transcript. There is no time that the word confederation came from my lips.
In broad terms, Aburi changed the title of head of state from Supreme Military Commander to Commander-in-Chief. It gave the regions control over internal affairs, and concurrence of each region was now required for any decision affecting the whole country.
And before you know it, that was how the war started. The Nigerian Biafran War. Go on saying that, why did Ojukwu went and make statement first? He should have waited. That kind of disagreement led to all the benefits that Nigeria will have gotten by fulfilling, by implementing the Aburi Accord. Nigeria will have been one of the best countries today if that Aburi Accord was implemented. But it wasn't. They went to war and killed millions of people, destroyed properties worth billions of dollars. And at the end of the day, where is Nigeria today? Where is Nigeria today? Because it was that disagreement at Aburi that made Ojukwu to come to the people, to come to his people, the killings of the Igbos, to ask that they authorize him to declare Biafra. And the state of Biafra was declared on May 30, 1967. It was after the declaration of Biafra on May 30, 1967, because of the disagreement between Gowon and Ojukwu, that finally led to the Nigerian Biafran War, which lasted from 1967 to 1960. Let's continue to watch some of the videos, some of the speeches by Ojukwu.
In this war, there has been a lot of destruction, a lot of suffering. At the end of the war, a policy of no victor, no vanquished was established. But it remained for this to be put into practice in real terms. The Igbos, as I saw them on my return, would seem to suffer some disabilities still. In fact, those disabilities they see as...
Ojukwu was making this particular speech in this video when he returned back from exile. Remember, he returned back to Nigeria from Ivory Coast by 11:15 a.m. after living 12 years in exile. He returned to Nigeria on June 18, 2020, and he was accompanied by an 11-man NPN. NPN was the party in power in Nigeria then, led by Oyi of Oyi, Choba Okadibo. And this news is by newsnigeria.com.ng. So Ojukwu was making the speech in this video after he has returned from exile in Nigeria on June 18, 2020. Welcomed by MPN stalwarts led by Oyi of Oyi, Choba Okadibo. Let's continue to listen to him.
Punishment, continued punishment for participating in the war. And in a country where we're all striving to forget the past and move forward to a brighter future, this constant reminder, this constant punishment, this constant reproach inhibited the Igbo through participation in Nigeria.
Ojukwu discovered that when he came back from exile into Nigeria, that the Igbos were being marginalized, they are being mistreated, just like today. Just like the same thing that was happening before the war, the same thing is still happening today. And that is what Ojukwu is saying in this video, what he observed, that his people are still being marginalized, being maltreated, being punished for fighting the war. They were not fully assimilated. They said that there's a victor, no vanquished, but there's a victor and a vanquished, that the Igbos have been vanquished, the Biafrans were still being vanquished. That is what he was saying in this video. And so let's continue to watch. It's very, very interesting.
And body politic. They would like to feel that in Nigeria they could aspire to any position. They would like to feel that there are no limitations to their contributive capacity in Nigeria. They would like to feel that they could be appreciated fully in Nigeria. They would like to feel that they could be honored in Nigeria for their contribution. In short, the Igbo would like to feel that one day an Igbo could become president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
He was saying that the Igbos are not appreciated in Nigeria, that the Igbos cannot be in certain positions in Nigeria, that the Igbos are not integrated into the Nigerian system, that they are being excluded. This is what he observed when he came back from exile. The same thing that we are still suffering today. And that is why we titled this lecture, Ojukwu Speeches and How It Concerns the Biafran Restoration Project. And for those who are standing on the fence, when Ojukwu came back from exile, these are what he said that we just played in this video. And be your own judge to say whether what he has said is not continuing up till now. So let's take another video. Let's take this one. This one is...
Violence. Chief Emeka Ojukwu led the Biafrans against the government in the last war. He says it would be a mistake for anyone to provoke another.
So a lot of people will say, but you were leading the first one. Yes, I led the first one. And I will say to everyone, I led proudly the first one. I don't think a second one is necessary. We should have learned from that first one. Otherwise, the dead would have been to no avail. It would all
in this video, I think this video, he did it before he returned to Nigeria. A foreign correspondent was asking him, and he was saying, a second war is not necessary. If we have learned from the first one, that Nigeria or the Biafrans fighting a second war is not necessary. If we have learned from the first one. And you can tell that we have not learned from the first one, because the things, the injustices that caused the First World War, the first war, is still at play. And even more dangerously so, when Fulani terrorists were imported into Nigeria to help APC win Goodluck Jonathan in 2015 election. And now these terrorists are now killing people in Nigeria, taking their lands, making life uncomfortable, having many Nigerian people in IDP camps, in refugee camps, committing Christian genocide here and there across the whole Nigeria, kidnapping, organ harvesting, and creating all kinds of insecurity in Nigeria. And so, why would you say that the current Biafran restoration projects shouldn't continue with what you have right now from all the experiences? And the Igbo man cannot even be the president of Nigeria, because Peter Obi won the last election, 2023 election, clearly. He won everywhere, won in Sokoto, won in Lagos, won in Abuja, won everywhere. But he wasn't declared the winner. Use your tongue to count your teeth. Let's take another video.
I've always been told my English was quite clear. I don't need to explain further. There would be a breakdown of law and order. That's what they're begging for. I just wanted everybody to know that I'm not too old to shy away such responsibility if it comes. That's all. How can you take a people like the Ndi Igbo and try and to impose on them a leadership? It's not possible. It was possible before, but after Biafra, no. Everybody knows that. That's what I really...
Ojukwu should know today that it is even worse now. They are imposing leaders on the Igbos, starting from Ohaneze Ndi Igbo to many governors, to many leaders, including, because they destroyed the electoral system. They destroyed it. And as a result, they now impose people on us. They impose not only the governors, both those going to National Assembly, both those getting ministerial appointments. They were all being imposed on our people up to today. And that's why you are saying that they are looking for trouble. And even at your age at that time, that if you are called upon to take the responsibility, that you wouldn't mind the second time, based on what you have seen, based on the suffering of the people, based on the marginalization of the people. But you should know from Nkola Mahadum Wisdom University that those things, those marginalizations and maltreatments and injustices that you witnessed in your lifetime and was saying it, it is even worse today. Let's continue to watch.
Am I clearer now?
Very, very, very clear.
Thank you.
Yes.
Nigeria has always had a leader. And the problem is how good, relatively good is the leader. What leaderless? Oh no, Nigeria has always had a leader. Am I part of the leadership of Nigeria? I thought that door was closed and I was caught on the other side. So I don't count when it comes to that. And that is one of the problems that Nigeria has.
Was that why you didn't sign that petition?
No, I didn't sign. It wasn't necessary. But let's get this point straight. The president is supposed to be sick. If that is so, I wish him quick recovery. If it is not so, I wish him out of the chair. Have I made myself clear now?
You're very clear. I mean, if he's sick to the point that he can no longer continue, what would you expect of him to do? And that's why I'm asking.
I think Ojukwu was making these remarks during the Umaru Yaradua, when Umaru Yaradua was sick. And the Sokoto Caliphate was trying to hide that he's almost dead. They don't want Jonathan to, to come in, to replace him. And they asked Ojukwu this question. If Nigeria is a country where there's justice and equity and transparency, people in government should know that they are there to serve the people. And if somebody is sick that cannot continue, you honorable step down for another person that is ready to occupy that position. It's not something that you start to, fight about or make noise about, because anybody can get sick. And if you get sick to the point where you cannot continue to, to be in a public position, why can't you just step down? If you see what happened during Yaradua, and sometimes during Buhari, he stayed in foreign land, in London, in Britain for almost 6 months or so, without even handing over to the vice president. Let's continue to watch Ojukwu.
Why you didn't sign this?
Yes, petition? I would want him to say so, to admit it and say so.
Are you going to run for office again?
Oh, forgive me.
Yes.
Wait and see.
They asked him, is he going to run for office again? You know that when Ojukwu came back from exile under MPN, he decided to run for Senate. For those asking people to go and run for office, he decided to run for Senate. And they rigged the election. He ran with one Dr. Edwin Onwudiwe. And Edwin Onwudiwe, defeated Ojukwu in that election in 1983. According to Naicheng.com of September 2014, Second Republic Senator Dr. Edwin Onwudiwe easily comes to mind as one that defeated the late Biafran leader, Odumegwu Ojukwu, in the controversial 1983 election. So that is why the Nigerian electoral system had been destroyed. They have destroyed it. So it's no longer whom the people voted for. It's the person that, goes. It is somebody that is anointed or appointed by a godfather or from Abuja that they announce as the winner. If Dr. Edwin Umezuoke, Dr. Edwin Onwudiwe and Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu run for election that is free and transparent, Dr. Edwin Onwudiwe will not get up to 10% of the votes. But in Nigeria, it is the other way around. So for people asking Nnamdi Kanu, asking IPOB to go and join political party, to go form political party in Nigeria, the Nigeria electoral system had been destroyed, and therefore it's not the way forward. It's not a good advice to ask anybody to join the Nigerian political system, because they will rig the election and make sure that you don't get anywhere. So let's continue. Let's take one more or two more videos from Emeka Ojukwu. Let's complete this one.
Okay, wait and see.
Thank you.
I am a young man.
That is fine.
Wait and see.
Okay, so I said this one. Credit for this one goes to Sahara Reporters. Let's take another video here. This one. And this one, then I could go this one there. Even Eze Igbo gburugburu, Chukwuemeka Ojukwu was even asking the world to let my people go. Let my people go. So, do you see why the Biafran Restoration Project is enshrined in the foundation of Igbo freedom and equity and justice? That any sensible, any reasonable, any logical Biafran or African must support the Biafran Restoration Project. Because Ojukwu, when he was alive, when he came to Nigeria and experienced everything that is going on, he changed his mind. He changed his mind. He wanted people to be left to go. Let's continue to watch him. Ojukwu was saying that he's in Abia State and he was greeting the people and said that he's greeting those who agree that they are Igbo and those who didn't agree that they are Igbo. Because because of the war, a lot of Igbo people were denying that they are not Igbo. Because if you deny that you are not Igbo, the Nigerian system will reward you. But when you agree that you are Igbo, they will punish you. And that is what has been going on in Nigeria. So that was why Ojukwu said he is greeting those who agreed that they are Igbo and those who agree that they are not Igbo. Let's go to watch him. What Eze Gburugburu is saying here is that just like everybody have now realized that the Nigerian government, Nigerian people have what they call Igbophobia. They are afraid of the Igbo people. You wonder, why are you afraid? Okay, if you are afraid, why don't you allow them to have their own country? Why should we be in the same country where you be afraid of another? Why we know how we came together. And if one is saying they want to be on their own, what is wrong with that? It is in tandem. It is in agreement. It is lawful, both in the UN and African Charter, that it be done. And so, why should you be in the same country and you have Igbophobia and you are afraid of another without even giving that person equal playing ground? So let's continue to watch Ojukwu. Our able leader, we agree. You have done it before. We believe in your leadership. If not for the saboteurs and blockade and the war you fought was World War. It was even more than World War. And you survived for 3 years. And you will have survived. You will have survived. The Biafra will have survived that war and be a country today. So you tried your best. Let's take another video and then we call it a day.
you do. We have tried to live in Nigeria designed by Great Britain and handed to us. We have found it difficult to live in that Nigeria. We have fought a civil war, killed so many people.
We have lived in Nigeria designed by the Great Britain. So for the Biafran politicians and businessmen, and for other Biafrans across the world, you should know that the Nigeria today, you are living today, was created by Britain from the amalgamation after the 1884 Berlin Conference. That's when Britain got that geographical area. So Nigeria is created by Britain and being ruled by Britain. Why can't you understand that? And that is what Eze Gburugburu, Odumegwu Ojukwu had just said here. That we've been living in a Nigeria designed by Great Britain. So whatever you are going through here, both the marginalization, both the redrawing of the map that placed Igbo people, Biafran people in Taraba State, in Kogi State, in Benue State, and distributed them across the South states, are all the makings of Britain. That's what you should know. Let's continue to listen to Odumegwu Ojukwu.
And still, we have the same problems reoccurring. Perhaps the time has come to revisit the very foundations of Nigeria.
The same problem that caused that first war, the same problem is still going on today. That is what Ojukwu just said. And he's saying it is time we revisit the foundation of Nigeria. It is time we revisit the foundation of Nigeria. That is why Mazen Nnamdi Kanu and IPOB and other well-meaning Biafrans are asking for self-determination, which will result to referendum for people to decide whether they want to remain in this geographical area created by Britain or not. It is very, very, very important that all well-reasonable, logical Africans, Biafrans, and the world in general should support this self-determination, because Ojukwu have said it, that we live in Nigeria created by the way Britain created it. It is Britain that is championing our situation. It is Britain that fought the war with her allies against us in that world war against Biafrans. When we came back, it is Britain that is still overseeing our situation up to today. And so Ojukwu is saying it is time to revisit the foundation. And the only way you can revisit that foundation is for you to have a referendum through self-determination as being championed by Mazen Nnamdi Kanu and IPOB. And you should support it. That will provide that Biafran restoration project. That will facilitate it and achieve it for us in order for us to live in a country with the same value system, control our natural resources, have the country we call our own and develop it the way we want, have security, have 24-hour electricity, have good government, not foreign imposed democracy. Go back to our own Igbo Republican democracy that uses appointment for positions based on your abilities. This is what every reasonable Biafran should support based on the realities on the ground. The realities on the ground is that we are living in Nigeria that was created by Britain, who lives 6,000 miles away and put different nations together. And things have gotten worse with the importation of Fulani terrorists just to win an election. They imported Fulani terrorists who are now killing our people, taking lands, kidnapping, doing organ harvesting. And you, a Biafran, you're living outside Biafra land, and you're not ashamed that you are outside Biafra land. Any money you are making outside Biafra land is useless because the natural resources in our land alone will give us the comfort and dignity that we need as Biafrans and Igbo people. And hence, the support for the restoration of the Biafran project is necessary for everyone to be on the same page. Very, very, very important. And with this, we shall be bringing today's lecture to an end. But before we do, we have to ask you to please like, comment, and share. And also subscribe to our YouTube channel by pressing that bell button so that anytime we have a new lecture, you'll be the first to get it. And also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. And finally, we're going to have a second lecture. There's a video we shall be using to show you how Nigerian government treats people, how Nigerian journalists treat people, how they shut you down, which is very, very painful. They shut you down when you are saying the truth. They don't want to hear the truth. So that our country, Biafra, can never be a replica of what is going on in Nigeria today. And with this, we shall bring in today's lecture to an end. Please join me in about 30 minutes. 30 minutes, we're going to be online again to discuss that video so that you see what I'm telling you. It makes you want to cry the way they treated that man because he was saying the truth. Thank you and have a good one. Please share this lecture to get to everybody. Thank you and have a good one. Bye-bye.